Hello, everybody. DGT League here, where hopefully you can all hear me at least. I don't care about the rest of them. I'll just let you know that we do have SGP with us. Say hello, they can't see you at the minute.
No.
Being a dick, innit? Right, Ray's with us.
Hello.
Steve F1 is with us.
Hello.
And we also have a special guest with us, but I'm not going to introduce him yet.
He's not that special. He's just a guest.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if he's a guest, but he might just be special. But okay, we have got someone else with us, but we'll hold him for a moment. You can stay in my fucking basement. Right.
Let's keep a podium.
Okay, we need to really basically tell people what we're doing here tonight. Number one, we're going to be giving out some information to do with the Grit Championship that's coming up. And if you didn't know that, that's how it's pronounced. That is how it's pronounced. It's Group 1 and T for Tomahawk, so it's Grit. So we'll be giving out some information about that and the tracks that are going to be in use. So we're going to move straight on into that, and then we've got something a little bit different coming up after that, which might be why Rich is here. I've just realised I've announced who it is that's with us. I'm giving it away. Okay, ignore that. I know. Right, okay, so Tomahawk. I don't know if you guys have got a picture of it, but I'll go through the settings anyway, or the information that's on the screen. So the Group 1 Tomahawk, the car is the Group 1 Dodge Tomahawk VGT Group 1, obviously. Power will be set at 600 brake horse maximum. Weight will be the minimum weight, but you'll need to tune it up to be able to reduce it. Tyres are going to be racing hards on ×1 wear, which I don't think's a lot really, but the fuel is going to start on a full tank, I believe, and is going to be on a ×8 burn, which could be quite high. Qualifying will be a 10-minute session with the settings the same as the race, and the race lengths will be set by a number of laps, not by time. The amount of laps haven't been decided yet because we need to go and do those laps and find out. I just want to mention though, or ask the admins here, why such a low tyre wear but quite a high fuel burn?
Because we still want to wind Davey Arp up by having tyre wear on.
Fair enough, that's one way of doing it. Okay.
No, seriously though, we don't want to turn tyre wear off completely. We want that particular season to emphasise pit stops to do more with fuel. So the fuel is more of the key factor rather than the tyre wear.
Okay, fair enough. Anybody else got anything else to want to say on that? No? Okay.
Good.
Okay, we'll go on to the next bit of info, which is the tracks, which is quite interesting, really. So, all of the races will be held in the fine weather conditions at all locations. So for race 1 at DGT Seaside, it'll be fine weather at 10 a.m. Round 2 will be from Suzuka at 2:30. Round 3 from Yamagiwa 2 will be at 11:30. Round 4 again 11:30, and that is at Lake Maggiore GP, is it? I think. I haven't got the names. I've only got the pictures. And then race 5 will be 7:20 in the morning for the BB Raceway. Race 6 will be DGT Gardens, which is an interesting track. That'll be at 10 a.m. Round 7 will be 3:10 in the afternoon for which Sanquois is that, Steve?
Asking me?
Yes, yeah. I
Am
was
I
going
meant to know?
to say you're the only Steve here, but you're not. So
No, it's Sanquois B2.
there you go. Okay, round
Just to
8.
clarify though, the Lake Maggiore GP is reversed. It's the GP2.
Okay, good stuff. Round 8 is Lake Maggiore West 2.
No, just west.
Oh, okay. And round 9 is Sardegna
A2.
There we go. Right. that's the information to do with the Tomahawk. There isn't really any other info we can give you about that, other than, if you didn't know already, and Bunzel, apologies, but there is now merch available for the Grit, which is on the DGT merchandise store, where drivers, if they wish, can have their own names on their mugs and stuff like that. T-shirts and stuff available. Check it out. It's good quality stuff, as some of us will display this evening, if you get to see us. Right, I suppose now we should really move on to why we're actually here, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Can do.
Look at the talkative lot out there. Right, yes. So, now that we're all visible on camera, we can welcome Rich, has joined us as that special guest, as he looks upwards towards the sky, and as you can see, we've got SGP, SRI, Steve F1 and myself with us. And by the way, this is the Let Me Out t-shirt that you didn't get to see before. It's good quality. Right, okay, what are we doing here? Well, it's quite simple, really. Rich Bignell, or Dick Bignell, as he's coming to be known, has very helpfully been collecting drivers' post-race comments for some time now, and we really appreciate the fact that he's done that. And this recent championship in the Porsche, Rich decided he was going to do something a little bit different, which was to ask the drivers specific questions. However, at the last race, a question that Rich was going to ask everybody, I thought, you know what, maybe we can do something with that. So for anyone that has seen the last race video, you'll have noticed that your post-race comments was shown on there, but when you were asked whether, if there was any rules you'd change or you'd introduce, that wasn't on the race video. And the reason for that is because I thought it'd be a good idea to put those comments directly to the admins and see what they've got to say for themselves. Now, what I can tell you is SRI, SGP and Steve F1 have no idea what the comments are. They've not been shown them. They also do not know whose comment is going to be whose. So if anybody has made a comment and they think, well, they're going to say they don't like that because I've made it, they don't know who's made the comment. Now, we may be able to tell them once we're finished, but yeah, there we go. That's basically what we're doing here today. So I think it's only fair that Rich, seeing as he is the person that creates the questions and gathers all of the information and takes the time to do so, I think it's only fair that he gets the opportunity to put those comments and questions to the DGT League admins. So, Mr. Dick Bignell, I shall hand over to you.
Thanks very much, Dave. So the question was...
Hi, Dick.
Hello. How are we doing?
Not bad.
Good. What was the question? I can't even remember now.
What was the question? I gave you the list of the question. Oh no, sorry, the question. Sorry, right, the question.
The question. If you could change one rule for a season or a future season, what would it be and why?
Yes.
So we've got 16 answers here. You'll see some that are very similar, some that are new, some that are different, some that are irrelevant. So let's just start from the top. So the first one would be an increase of boost for a season, just to see the results. And something that hasn't happened yet, but their opinion is that it should be, is that there should be a race at an oval. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
But they've all been quiet for 10 minutes and then they're all at the same time. Rich, you'll learn, you may have to direct it to someone.
I can answer the second part of it in that the calendar that's just been released for the Grit has an oval on it. If you notice on the track map,
yep,
there is an oval, BB Raceway. So yeah, that is something we've considered for a while, isn't it? And decided that this car is the
Ray did
car that will work well as an oval.
Ray was against it, but he got outvoted.
3-1 outvoted, yeah.
I suppose, in my opinion, from a non-admin looking in, Dynamic GT League supposed to be a bit varied season to season. We've never raced at an oval before, so chances are it's going to be in there one day. So SGP, go on, Ray. Sorry.
The increase of the boost, I think the way we've got it set is nicer now. I don't think putting more onto it, all it's going to do is have everybody bunched up close, and like a last lap, sometimes something goes wrong. It'll just be a bigger carnage as everybody dives round the last corner or whatever.
I would say as well that this season's been notable how close the people in the pack are to the front now. So you could argue you don't really need increased boost because drivers are improving.
Yeah, fair shout.
I'd agree.
SGP?
What they said.
See, what I would add is we did used to run higher boost up until this. I think Red Bull Junior was the last one we used the higher boost, and what we did,
Slipstream.
yeah, and Slipstream, and what we did find was, I don't know if it was the combination of the two, but I know we did feel that on a longer straight it led to being many cars wide, which was not necessarily what we wanted to get.
Yeah, you could end up with.
Do you think it would be different?
Go on.
Do you think it would be different now that we're a few seasons in and drivers are a little bit more experienced or respectful?
My thought on it is, when we've done it previously, you'd have somebody 6 or 7 cars behind, thinking, "I'm super fast. I've got a chance of overtaking 6 cars here," and we still get that with somebody thinking, "I'm faster than these 3 cars in front of me, and I'm going to overtake all 3 of them." So, if we still see it now with the boost settings as they are, I can only see it being increased with the boost being increased. That's my fear. And I think you've got to think about, why would somebody want to increase the boost? And if it is to bring the pack close together, let's find an alternative way of doing it rather than boost.
Mm.
I'm not saying what that might be, I'm just saying alternative.
Yeah. I mean, boost would be one way of doing it, but I think probably what SGP's touching on there as well is that obviously the admins recently have been talking a bit about how things have been going in the pack and sort of wanting to try and sort of put a positive message out there of things can get a little bit hectic in the pack at times, but perhaps remind drivers that sort of one of the number one rules in DGT League is give space, give room. If everybody gives room to each other, then the number of incidents is reduced. And I mean, I've been speaking to a few people recently, and every single one of them pretty much says, I don't know why in the pack we don't give each other room. So, well, everybody says it, but not everybody's doing it. So, but it's one of those things. We can be more positive about ourselves and going, if we give a bit more room, then we can really start having some interesting races. And then you could perhaps increase the boost.
Just on that point that Dave's made, one other thing is, we have noticed a decrease in the amount of reports of drivers having incidents. But watching footage, we're seeing an increase of people waiting for people because of an incident, which is good because they're waiting. But it still means there are incidents. So we'll still need to work away on reducing incidents as well. So yes, it's good that people are waiting for the incidents, but their incidents are still happening.
Yeah. Right, Rich, did that answer the question number 1 or comment number 1?
I think it did.
Okay.
I think it's a fair appraisal. Okay, so if we move on to comment number 2. The first point of this would be toilet breaks in the middle of the race.
Oh, you can say what it says.
That,
you can say what it actually says.
No, PG, mate, PG.
Okay, you can't say it. It says piss stops.
And then, is there the possibility of introducing a handicap system down the line? For example, if you win, you lose horsepower throughout the season.
Yeah, so bit like a what's it? Success ballast kind of thing, or a success penalty kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd like Steve's
Something like
thoughts on this because I know that Steve's had an opinion on.
The thing is, you're doing that and you're pointing at Rich on my.
Me, that's
Yeah,
Steve's
you're
side
bottom on my screen.
Yeah, no, you're
Just
over.
point at the floor.
You're over there.
there.
That side. Yeah.
Me.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts, Steve, on penalising someone for doing well?
It's something we have discussed a few times, isn't it? It's just about how you can. It is a really good idea. I think it's just how we can bring it in and police it in the right way, where it's easy for the admins to actually just make sure everyone's running the correct way, and you can trust people to do it. And I'm not saying anyone in this league would not do it, because I think everyone gets on, and I don't think we've got any drivers who would kind of bend the rules like that. But it's just working out a way as admins that we can kind of bring in a system and it works without it being a lot of workload. So yeah, it is a really good suggestion. It is something the admins have talked a few times about.
I suppose that also now though we have seen, as we've done a bit more of a deep dive into the lobby settings, there is options in the member list where you can see an individual's weight and power.
Yeah,
and
That's
that might be a way down the line of controlling it, I suppose.
that's true. That's true.
So do it then. Yeah, it's a good idea then. Implemented.
I don't know about implemented.
That's him on his head.
I mean, what I would say is it definitely is an interesting comment, and like Steve said, it is something that we've talked about, and it's not necessarily penalising somebody for doing well. It's more sort of not allowing anybody to go storming off into the distance, so to speak. Well, I would
it's a bit like the British Touring Car Championship.
yeah,
In mind.
yeah. I mean, and what I would say is, I mean, that's something that definitely may come up again in a bit. So yeah, I reckon we go on to the next comment, Rich.
He's on mute.
You're on mute.
Was he on mute? Was he on mute?
Not the first time it's happened. Not the first time it's happened.
Already been.
So I think we can guess who put this one in. Rubbing is racing, so they're looking for a season where there might be slightly more contact, as long as you know it's within the rules.
Oh, come on, we done what the Ford.
But yeah,
Is there a potential for a season where there's more rules than what Ford, for example, staying on track, but applying a rule where slightly more contact is allowed in a Gold Star season?
you know, I don't think it's anything we've ever spoken of. So kind of like what the Ford, but you've got to stay on the road.
So yeah, you can lean a bit
It's more
harder
like-
than normal.
Yeah.
It's a bit more like touring car kind of rules.
Oh,
90s.
you can't push the pass. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it would depend on what car it is, wouldn't it? If you couldn't do that in any car,
Yeah.
but there are certain cars you probably could.
Yeah, because we'd need to test out the contact capabilities of certain cars and that. And that's what we do when we're doing up seasons. We test out contact and how bad the car's going to handle.
Just to let you know, Dave the Arp say no.
That's this season.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is. I mean, I do think it's an interesting. I know Dave's obviously not keen on it, but I kind of see where Bunsel's. We know who's. I've said it there. It's Bunsel, but we know it's Bunsel because it's rubbing his racing. He loves it. But it's one of those things where I could imagine us doing it at some point, just for a bit like a What the Ford, and perhaps an in between seasons or something a bit different. And
Even if it was a full length season, but brown star, not a gold star.
yeah. I mean, it's something that none of us had ever really thought about, is it?
No.
No.
I had.
I bet Ray did. He wants another brown star. Right, I think we can move on.
Next one, turning off boost. So the opposite to answer number one. But turning off boost, avoiding the situations where drivers are put in, situations where they don't want to be in.
We've seen races with boost off, and like people are sitting alone driving for however long the race is, and it'd be boring. Like I'd like to have somebody challenging me, even if I do get away from the pack. I still have that. What is it? Have that fear of them catching me up, so I try and keep pushing and pushing. So I wouldn't turn off boost, because you'll see the ones that have been practicing in that, they'll just shoot off away into the distance. The ones that haven't had time to practice, they're going to struggle, and then it's going to be all spread out. There's not going to be really much racing other than you running around yourself.
I think as well, unfortunately, with boost off, it's one of those things where we know that the field would get spread, and unfortunately there may be some people that end up at the back and then they're not enjoying it anymore, and then they're not going to bother racing. At the end of the day, these guys are not running this league like we used to run the F1 league, so this is much more a group of friends rather than a group of people racing competitively against each other. And I kind of stick to that, or the quote of, the boost helps you catch up, but it don't help you stay there. So to stay there, you've got to be consistent and you've got to be able to race a bit. But the boost does allow to cover any bad situation that may happen. I mean, for example, the race we're doing this week, if boost was off, holy cow, I think we would have ended up with people being lapped numbers of times, and I don't think I'd want that.
No, also, the main thing to remember is we come online to have fun and enjoy it. And if somebody gets taken out at turn one and ends up 20 seconds down with little chance of catching back up again, what fun is it for that person? And I've been in many leagues and many races where people have had incidents on turn one and switched off the system and given up. Because what's the point? And so allow them to catch back up and race nicely and fairly and have fun. I mean, I'd like to know what Rich's thought is on this. I know he's not an admin, but I know you've got an opinion, Rich.
Oh, that's just stick the knife in and turn it. Why don't you? He's not an admin.
I know that if boost was turned off, I wouldn't enjoy it, because I'd be racing on my own at the back. I don't have much time to practice. And and fair play to everyone that can practice. That's that's my problem, not anybody else's. But equally, I personally wouldn't be competitive at all. I wouldn't even be in the pack. So it's one that I wouldn't enjoy. But then respect other people's opinions as well. So.
I mean, again, something that I touched on earlier on was about us trying to be perhaps a bit proactive towards what may go on in the pack. I think I'd rather sort of try and educate perhaps a bit more the drivers of what to do and to be more aware in the pack. And if there's two cars in front of you side by side, then don't make it three wide. Because it's risky, and if you're behind a car that's behind two cars that are side by side, do you really want to make it 2x2? Because kind of like as I said on the commentary the other day, if you go single file, as a group you'll go faster. So I think personally I'd rather help educate the drivers to perhaps be a little bit more aware and be more positive in the pack, and that then creating better racing if you're in the pack. So for anyone that may feel, oh, well, I keep getting caught up because these guys have got boost on, well, yes and no, but if the driving is better, then I don't think anyone could really say, well, they don't deserve to still be right behind me. Yes, the boost may help them catch up, but now they've got to try and stay there, and can they do that? So I think there's a positive way that it could be dealt with in a respect, because I think with this comment it was also added, like, it puts drivers, like with boost off, it puts drivers in awkward positions where they wouldn't normally be without the boost. And I kind of get that. So, like, for example, if one of the front runners has a spin and they drop down all the way to the back, yes, it puts them in a difficult scenario. But I think that may be very different to someone who perhaps is struggling, is at the back anyway, and gets dropped another 20-30 seconds back, if that makes any sense. And everyone's been deadly quiet, so I'm guessing either I'm on mute or they are. Right.
No,
I was on mute.
Have we covered that one enough, Rich, do you reckon, or is there anything else?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah, have to move on. Point number 5. Sitting on the fence. Most rules are covered. Wanted to leave it for the other drivers to voice their opinions rather than have an opinion themselves when they're happy with everything that is as is. So.
Yep. Okay, so we can move on to
I
next
don't know
one.
if there's much to say there.
No, not really.
So the next one, go on, Ray.
That was. I think that was my.
It was yours. I wasn't going to say that it was you, but
Right.
Yeah, that's my comment. But it was for to see the ideas from the drivers and not an admin's thing. So that's why I didn't.
Yeah, it makes sense.
yeah. I
Makes
mean,
sense.
if Ray wanted to put an idea forward, he's probably already done it. Yeah. Okay.
Probably implemented already.
Why do you think he wouldn't want the
0.6,
Ford?
Well. 0.6, a mandatory tyre to bring the pack closer together.
Mandatory
Does that mean like
2 types, as in you got to run both.
I think it might mean that, because at the moment we tend to use one tyre, so maybe it does mean that. Maybe it's open, like all the racing tyres, but you have to use one of them at some point.
I don't know.
Well, seeing as no one else is talking, I'll say something. That is, what we tend to find is if you do that kind of thing, with boost being on, people will run the weaker of the tyres for the shortest possible time. There's little point on doing it.
Just to let you know, Rich, I'm being advised from Hay just to keep your arms down because you got sweat patches.
Nah. Scandalous.
Yeah. So sorry, SGP, you were saying.
I'm just saying that if you did have 2 compounds and one must be used, whichever's the weaker of the tyres tends to get used for such a small period of time because boost is on. Is it really going to be worth it? There's a lot of thought that would have to go into it. And it's also working out, has people used the tyre? Who's going to sit there and go through the footage to find out if people did swap to the right tyre?
Yeah.
But whoever it is that's asked that comment, feel free to send a message to the admins elaborating a bit more on their idea, because it might be a good idea. We may just be misinterpreting what they mean.
Yeah. I do think as well that it's one of those things of, as Art Pal has commented, how do you police it? And unfortunately, that is one of the things that gets considered a lot. Yes, we could just trust people to do it, but there's always that possibility. I'm not saying anyone would, but we've all experienced it before, where people have tried to take, not in DGT, but in other racing leagues, where people have tried to take advantage of certain situations. And the levels that we had to go to police them are not levels that we want to go to anymore, because that's not why we're doing it.
We want us to, for us as admins, to have fun as well, and not sit on hours of footage searching to make sure everything's been filmed. So that's why when we come up with the seasons, we go through, how do we police it? If it's going to say, oh, you need to look through their footage, then it's kind of basically put on the back end and we find another way to do it.
I mean, if you look at the No Championship now, we took a step in that which we've not taken before, which is with the no pit stops. The pit lane is closed. And we had that conversation of, well, what do we do if someone does go in the pits, or how do we police it? Well, it's one of those things that can be a bit easier to be seen, because if someone's pitting, you can spot it. But we did have to have multiple conversations about what would the whole process of that be and how would it be dealt with. And even then, it was a case of, we didn't necessarily enjoy the idea of potentially having to penalise people if they did pit, even if it was like, oh shit, I forgot. Well, unfortunately, the pit lane's closed. So, yeah, if it creates a difficult situation, yeah, I can understand these guys not being too keen on it. Right. Sorry to butt in and talk over you all there like that, but...
No worries. Next one, happy to move on. So, point number 7, the driver wanted to find a way of keeping everyone closer together. Their recommendation is ensuring that the leader can't drive specifically more than 1.5 seconds ahead of the person in second place. So that will hopefully improve the chance of an overtake occurring and also increase the likelihood of lead changes.
Stupid.
Isn't that just what boost is? Except it doesn't go to P1, does it? It's just basically got boost, isn't it?
Surely it's up to whoever's in P2 to try and stay within 1.5 seconds. It's not the leader to try and stay only 1.5 seconds ahead.
People think it's been dull at the front. Like, seems to me it's been closer recently at the front. No one's been running away with races anyway.
Would it help if the front two just sod off 20 seconds up the road, but they're still only 1.5 seconds away from each other?
Well, I mean, that's one thing. You look at the last race, there was a gap from second to third, and the gap between first and second wasn't very big. So it was probably less than a second and a half for most of the race. So
It's not
it's
a good idea. It's up there.
I tell you what, it's a weird one, but I actually kind of like the concept. It's I don't know, it's one of those, it's definitely thinking outside the box. But again, like you said, if first and second pull away from third, it's null and void.
Whoever wrote that in, did it tongue-in-cheek?
No.
I don't think so.
Really?
Yeah. No? It came with we could to spice things up and keep everyone closer. It's I don't think many would be on board with it.
Come down to how you police it again, wouldn't it? Would it be an easy way of policing something like that? You'd have to check through the footage, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you'd have to check through the footage, and then the guy in first place going to have to keep an eye on the second place, how far away he is, and then it changes at corners, so it jumps up and down. So I don't think there's a great way to put that in.
But the way
The last race where Connor spun, am I meant to wait for him if I'm in the lead?
No, you don't. No, you don't wait for him. You slow down until I'm within 1.5 seconds of you.
It's your idea.
No, it's not my idea. No. What I would say is, with any suggestion that comes in, I tend to try and look at the negative a bit. And my instant reaction would be, okay, well, if you were in second place and there was a gap to third, would you be a bit risky and go, well, I'm just going to back off a bit and back off a bit and back off a bit, and then he's going to have to keep going slower? We might get caught by the pack, but I don't care. He's not pulling away. So I'm not sure it'd ever work, but it's definitely thinking outside the box. We just need to close that box and put it under the stairs.
Aye, in your cellar.
Yeah. I mean, there's some interesting comments about that one. Most of them being it's not a good idea, unfortunately. And Art Pal saying 40 minutes in and only on question 6, Bunsell goes quicker than these questions. Cheeky bastard. Okay, shall we move on?
Yep, point 8 then. So it would remove qualifying for your future season and base the grid on a reverse grid based on the previous race. If you didn't race, you start last. And then a second point would be implementing a bonus point for fastest lap.
Okay.
And you go, Steve F1.
I think.
I'll answer
Go on,
the first
Steve.
one, Steve, and I'll let you answer the second one. First one being the reverse grid. Yep, that's on the cards at some point in the future. We'll probably do it again. We have in the past. Why not? Second point, Steve?
Yeah, I think it's something we've discussed before, haven't we, about bonus points? But I think because of the boost that we have in DGT, it kind of the fastest lap is skewed, isn't it? It's always going to be someone who's spun and is at the back. So it's difficult to justify having a point for fastest lap because it will just literally go to whoever's been at the back and got a clear run with a massive boost. So I think we have discussed it before, haven't we? But I think the overall feeling was it wasn't something we were that keen on.
My argument for this would be, as an outsider looking in, is that it won't really affect the championship that much in the terms of it's always a similar crowd running ahead with it. But what it might do is change the pack a little bit, as in the championship points for the people in the middle of the championship. If let's say, for example, SGP and Steve F1, Mitch, Conrad this season, if they carry on with their form, it doesn't matter if they get a point for fastest lap because they'll still be streets ahead of everybody else in the pack. Whereas if the pack have an opportunity to gain an extra point, that might shift a little bit the
standings,
the championship for the pack. Plus, it's a bit of
fun. I tell you what,
bit of fun.
I'm normally against the idea of a bonus point, but I have just thought of something, which is in the past in DGT League we have done a for example, like car selection on championship standings order or reverse championship standings order. So for those people that are perhaps a bit further back in the pack or things happen to them quite regularly or get unlucky a lot and they're able to get a few extra bonus points, maybe it then puts them into a different bracket when it may come to a car selection if we do that again in the future. But it is a tricky one though. I understand the pros, the fors, and against it.
Yeah, just add on it that one thing that I would worry about is it would actually take away from racing in the last few laps. Whereas whoever's at the back with a few laps to go could end up dropping off to try and get more boosts to try and put in the fastest lap. So whoever's second to last could end up dropping off to try and get a fastest lap. So those people that could be racing are actually just trying to do fastest laps. And there's also this issue with the replay doesn't show you who's done the fastest lap.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, we've got a comment as well saying maybe the fastest lap, but you need to finish in the top 10. Unfortunately, that doesn't work because, that's just it's added extra work that we don't need to be doing. Well, I think we can move on that one. You're on mute again, Rich.
You.
That's definitely going to end up on a t-shirt. You're on mute.
Next one. Enforcing grid penalties for the next race for drivers that cause an incident at the very end stages of the previous race, and that's essentially because if they cause an incident, that might have an effect on the innocent party where they lose a lot more points. That it could be seen as a penalty for the driver is still ineffective for that race.
We
Interesting
did have...
idea. Oh, sorry, go on, Ray.
No, on you go.
No, it's an interesting idea, grid penalties rather than points penalties. I think the only issue is obviously you've got the boost, so if you get put to the back of the grid with a penalty, you're just going to, with the boosts, it's not going to be that much of a penalty at the start of the race because you can easily start coming through again. That's how I've read it, unless I've misinterpreted.
That's how I would have read it.
That's how I would have read it as well, but there may be a different approach to it. But we can cover both circumstances in that. You know how we used to do like the double points penalty in the last 5 minutes, and we decided we tried it, and really it didn't actually work. We ended up in a situation where we were giving big penalties for stuff that didn't deserve it, but that's what the rules told us we had to do. I could kind of see, I'm kind of taking over a bit here, but I apologise. I could kind of see,
No, you don't.
no, I don't apologise at all. I kind of see the benefits of if incidents happen late on, and people wait, maybe someone taking a grid penalty. But as Steve F1 said, you've got boost at the next race. But also there was something else that when you guys started DGT, there was a number of set parameters that you wanted to stick to, which was just off the top of my head, keep it simple, but also whatever happens at an event is dealt with and done with in that event. So what happens at one race doesn't roll on to another race unless it's something like someone's getting a race ban. That way, like once a race is done and it's dealt with and the points are done, the video's done, that's done, move on. Am I right in that or am I wrong in that?
You're right, because how do you give a grid penalty to somebody when it's the last race of the season?
For the record, though, we've misinterpreted the comment anyway.
Well, I did mention that, but I did say we'd cover it on both sides, right? So I was covering it as it's all right, Dick Bignell, you go and put your trousers back on, flick that button on your microphone.
That's a good point.
So the comments have been that it's they're saying not at the next race, but the current race. So finishing position drops.
Oh, okay.
So it affects your
Finishing position.
points and gives other points to other people.
Yeah.
But it would only help if it dropped you behind the person that you had an incident with.
I think you got that. No, you're wrong there. Because if someone crashed you off and you got dropped behind them,
like this though. If, for instance, a driver is in
the innocent party would it would only give advantage to people that aren't the innocent party if the offender doesn't fall behind the innocent party.
Yes. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Here to help.
I mean, what I would say is, right, again, you'd have to look at, how would you police it? You don't, with Strongbow. Now, you can't police it by...
Where's your tenants, Ray?
My tenants are in the basement. You can't police it by time. So, for example, you can't apply a time penalty to someone, unfortunately, because the way the boost works, right? Now, you could, and we have discussed it before when doing stewarding decisions, we have kind of discussed whether it'd be good to be able to go, right, so-and-so has crashed into this guy in the last couple of laps. Could we swap their positions around? And it's something that has been discussed a little bit, but it's never been in the rules to allow us to do so. And there's always the possibility of ending up in a difficult scenario of it's not just straightforward as, drop them one position or drop them two positions. It would be a lot more detailed than that. I don't know if I can explain it a better way. I mean, you guys do stewarding. Try and explain how... Well, yeah, you do. It's in the rule book that you do, Raymond. But yeah, I mean, try and explain what difference it would have on how you deal with that kind of situation.
don't know, because every incident's different, and like as we had the double points thing in one season, we were realizing like, shit, we're actually going to give this person double point reduce because of this little silly mistake. So it's a whole. I think the way the system is now has been pretty good. Yeah, there is still stuff happening in the last X amount of laps, but I think over time, hopefully, drivers, and it's not just drivers, it's us as well, because I make mistakes in the last few
Yes.
laps and that. So it's everybody in the league, and maybe it's just trying to get the mentality of you don't have to gun it in the last X amount of laps.
Well,
Race the race in front of you or the person in front of you and try and go up in a step, not right. I need to get in front of the back and just push right through them.
Sorry, I was going to say, to touch on something that we mentioned a little bit earlier as well is, okay, why would somebody want to bring in something like this? Maybe because they feel that there's a bit too much maybe happening late on and perhaps have it as a deterrent. And okay, it is one way you could go. But maybe in the DGT league, what these guys want to do is actually go, you know what, we don't want to try and deter people by imposing penalties. What we'd rather do is help educate the drivers into having better races and minimising those incidents. So rather than trying to deal with it in a punishment style, you deal with it in a more positive way. And that's something that I know that us guys have been talking a lot about recently, and perhaps feel that may be the way to go rather than slap them with penalties. Because, I mean, take Bunsell, for example. Bunsell recently has been extremely well behaved, apart from Catalonia, but he was very unlucky. But he's responded very well to having a chat, being shown what's been happening, and him being able to go, okay, and being positively educating him in that situation, rather than just going, Bunsell, you've crashed into someone, penalty. Bunsell, you've crashed into someone again, stop doing it, here's a penalty. It's kind of a bit more negative.
You've crashed again, that's it, you're at the week.
Aye, yeah. Yeah, right.
Seriously?
Right, Rich, take your mute button off. And
Done, thank you.
Okay.
Next one, get your thoughts on this. So, in each race, the best placed non-UK driver gets an extra 5 bonus points.
I wonder who's that for?
Right, Tim, seriously.
he does go on to say, why not? It would be fair.
Yeah.
We only got one non-UK driver in the league.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
So, moving on then.
I do like that idea.
Yeah,
Very good.
funny.
The non-EU driver.
Point 11.
On.
Yeah?
Go on.
I say, answer 11 then. It would be seeing the previous champions in a car that is essentially detuned in comparison to what the rest of the people drive, and that's essentially to increase the opportunities given to drivers in the pack.
I'm not going to agree to that one.
To get better results.
I'm not going to agree to it.
I wonder why.
I tell you what, the first line of it actually is it might be a bit controversial, which it is.
I don't think champions would agree to it. I'm not agreeing to it. Steve don't
It's not
agree.
if the champion, it's if the admins agree to it.
The thing is, though, right, guys, I reckon at this point, you don't announce anything or everything, but you answer that question in the best way and most truthful way that you can.
I don't agree with it.
Well, let's put it this way. If you guys don't answer it, I'll tell them.
Okay, I'll say.
Steve?
Something in the pipeline.
No, you can tell them more than that. I think you can tell them more than that.
No.
Would it make a difference if I told you who put this comment forward?
Yeah.
Mitch.
Yeah.
Mitch.
Mitch, who is a recent champion. So it's not
Well.
someone trying to slow down the champions, it's a champion thinking about everybody else.
What I wouldn't
Why
want.
would you do that?
I know.
Team player, Mitch.
Is it worth saying Mitch winning a championship last season was kind of significant for reasons we can't at the moment say?
Yeah, I actually remember saying to Mitch, "Well done, you've just done yourself over there."
Yep.
And he went, "What, eh?" And I went, "You'll find out."
Well, see, I think these guys could give you more information than they are. It's just usually we would keep things like very secret and do proper reveals, which we will do. But I think that we should tell them. I am trying to look at SGP. No, what it is, like I've got a computer monitor here, camera there, and TV over there. Right. I reckon that what we should tell them is that the championship, the championship after the Tomahawk has already been decided, right?
Yep.
And part of that championship is that champions are going to be effectively in a success ballasted vehicle. It's going to be a car that is a little less powerful or a little heavier than other cars that are going to be available. So Mitch's comment there of it's a bit controversial, but it's something he'd like to see. Well done, Mitch. You're going to be in one of those heavier cars. But we won't tell you what cars they're going to be or anything like that, because we'll reveal that at the right point. But I did think that was a comment that was very interesting for me, coming from Mitch specifically, considering what we've got planned for the future and has been planned since November, I think. Yeah, it would be, yeah.
Championship.
It was before the Tomahawk.
Yeah.
Initially, it was going to be the next league car, wasn't it? But it's been put back a season.
Yeah.
Just so we could get more champions in.
Yeah. So come on, Raymond, you need to win a proper one.
SGP, you go let Connor have this championship then.
Okay, look.
It's not really similar to the 4 Cup they've got, but it would just be the champion and a different car, not the drivers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it, but not like it at all. Things have been learnt from the Special 4 Cup, which are being incorporated into what this will be. I'm interested to see what Richard's thoughts are, having heard that, because he knows.
Be the 4th gear.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm interested to see what Rich thinks, because obviously it's the first he's heard about it, and obviously he's here on camera looking up into the sky, thinking, "What on earth's going on?"
No, I think it's one that I did comms on a previous video, and it's something that we talked about at the end of the video about potential ideas for future championships down the line, and it's one that we did talk about and touch on before, that perhaps one season. What would happen if we put, and it's a bit different to this answer now, but what we touched on before was if you win a race, then
you get put in a shit car.
You get put in a worse car than everybody else. Similar kind of thing, but this is with champions rather than individual race winners in a season. I think it's really interesting. I think it would, in a way, it would bring the pack potentially closer to the front. Equally, there's only 9 races in a season, so chances are that if you can get one winner or one champion still at the front, I don't know how it would affect the season. Really, it'd be interesting.
Yeah. Well,
could go 2 ways.
One of the things that has always been a deciding factor, as Ray mentioned earlier, is how do we police it? How do we control the settings and stuff like that? So we took stuff like you said and other people said, and it's one of those things, in a way, you wouldn't want someone going, I'm in the lead, but if I just back off, he can win and he can drive the shit car next week. So
Yeah.
that kind of had to be.
Hence, it can't be like that in an individual season. If we're looking at champions as well, that's the way around it, isn't it? So
Yeah. And to be fair, I mean, SGP said he doesn't agree with it, but to be honest, he does. He does fully agree with it. But anyway, I hope that answers Mitch's question. I mean, I'm tempted to give out a tiny little bit more information to the guys, but without actually giving much away. I was just thinking, like, in the group 4, what?
I'm quite happy to give the season name away and nothing else.
Well, you see, I could give the name away, but I'm actually thinking we don't tell them the cars, but we could tell them what the selection process would be with the cars. Ray, would you agree with telling? Steve F. was sat there thinking, I can't remember what it was we agreed.
I know what the cars are, but if you give the championship name away, we'll kind of give away what the cars are. Well, not the exact cars, but the type of cars.
We'll keep the name, right? But what I will say is, in the group, when we did the Special 4 Cup, we selected 4 cars. There was a limited amount of them, and you got to pick them in a reverse championship order from a previous championship. That's not how it's going to work this time. There is going to be, I think, 3 or 4 cars. One of those cars is the champion's car. They don't get a choice. That's what they're using, right? And we're not going to tell you what the cars are yet. So the champions will be in one particular car, and that will have a performance deficit. There will then be 3, I think, other cars that will be available to the drivers, and it'll be a case of, right, guys, you can use any one of these 3 cars. Test them, try them, pick one. That's what you're going to have for the season. So you'll actually get to pick which car you're going to use, and it doesn't matter if all of you pick the same one. You ain't going to be changing it during the season, so we ain't going to be wanting to hear any, oh, well, I'm in a weaker car. Well, that's the one you chose. You had full opportunity to pick one of these other ones, but you picked this one. Now, the cars will have slightly different characteristics, but that's what it'll come down to, a driver's personal preference. Either way, I think it'll be a very exciting championship, and that's all we're going to answer on that one for now. Agreed?
What's the name of it?
What's the name of it? Not saying.
My Brown Star doesn't count as a championship.
Shit, yeah.
Yeah, it does.
No, what it does mean, though, Raymond, is that because you put on the comments, it's the Samba bus, it means you've got to drive the Samba bus.
Okay.
Brown Star drives a different vehicle.
Yeah.
Jesus hell, Dave the Harp, what are you smoking? Thinks I look like Justin Timberlake. I'm taken.
Hang
Peaky
on.
Blinder.
Has Justin Timberlake been in a car crash or something? Right, should we move on?
No entry, by the way. Exit only.
Let's have a look. So, answer 12 we touched on before, reverse grids. I mean, the answer with reverse grids before was a little bit more specific, as in the previous race. Shall we move on, or do you guys want to talk about it more? I don't mind. There's a different way of looking at reverse grids, isn't there, I suppose?
If these guys got anything to say, I can comment on it, but we'll see if these guys got anything to say.
Well, we did the reverse grids, didn't we? Or the reverse championship. And
yeah,
they were in front of us by turn, 5 or something. Within the first lap, they were back ahead in front of us. So, reverse grids, yeah, we probably would look into it again and see if there's something else we could do to spice it up.
Oh, I was going to say...
I don't know what.
SGP's pretending to be on mute. No, well, you just are on mute. Go on.
I was going to say that when we did it last time, it was from standing starts. And I know not many people like rolling starts. But potentially reverse grid with rolling starts spreads things out a bit more and could make things a bit more difficult for those that are at the back. But these are all things that were always got on the table and considering, depending on the car, the tracks, the championship style, the fuel, the tyres. the type of championship it is.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, obviously, a lot of the drivers don't get to hear a lot of the conversations that may be had, but that's because a lot of the time they're drunken arguments. But there are a number of different. Okay, yeah, that's all. But even if it's like reverse grids or a bit like touring cars where they do, or sorry, Formula 2, is it GP2, like 8th places pole, and like those things get discussed all over the place at different times. And like SGP said, I think it comes down to specific championships and when it feels right to do it.
Next.
One more. I would also say that the reverse grids that was done before was quite a long time ago now, in comparison to we've had plenty of seasons in between where people have improved their racecraft on Gran Turismo. So,
Have we?
well, you might not have. Okay, next one. Answer 13. More clapping. Moving on.
Yep.
Answer 14. Nobody is allowed to overtake.
Well, I wonder.
I can't remember who put that one in.
I can. Hang on.
No, it's the other way.
Well, for me, it's that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, that ain't gonna happen.
No.
You know, actually, sorry, just to touch on that, right? Nobody's allowed to overtake. We were talking a little bit about being positive towards the drivers and stuff like that. And something that we've talked about recently is perhaps when drivers get themselves like in a 3-wide situation, and you're like, three-wide situation. And I'm only mentioning it because this is like a nobody's allowed to overtake. But could you ever impose anything like you can't attempt overtakes into this corner, or you can't attempt to go 3-wide, or you like 3-wide is banned, or anything like that?
No, it's too much to push.
Yeah. You don't want to any corner you can overtake, but it's just calculating the risk, isn't it? You wouldn't want to like say you can't overtake a specific corner because an opportunity might come where you can genuinely make a move.
Mm-hmm. If somebody makes an error, the opportunity's there. And how do you judge whether somebody's made an error or it's their racing line and they're just not as competitive as you on what you class as your racing line? It is difficult, but a bit more on the no overtaking. I think people need to think more about, do I really need to overtake right now? That's more what's important, rather than saying overtaking is not allowed. It's drivers should be thinking to themselves, what am I actually going to benefit from getting past this person in this situation right now with these other cars all around me? What are the risks? And sometimes you're better off bagging the position you've got than the position you're trying to get, because if you don't get that position, where are you going to end up?
Well, if you have anything to do with it, in the fucking pits. Okay, Rich, over to you.
No pit manoeuvres apart from on SGP.
Yeah, that'd be a new one,
Next one is, would the admins be open to having one more practice night in the week so people can work on breaking points and the like, rather than showing up without practicing and running the risk of ruining people's races that have put the time in before the race day?
Go on, Steve.
Gran Turismo is available 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
Anyone can open a lobby, can't they? And if there's enough people,
and just put a message.
You got the lobby settings.
I'm going.
Yeah.
Now I know what they mean though. Obviously, the more cars we get on the track, the more of a pack, the more of pack practice there might be, and practicing braking points behind other cars. And that's where some people need probably a bit of practice. Yeah, that is something that if somebody's not available to do it on a Monday, doing it on another day could be useful. We got on yesterday. It was just a bit late. We might be on after this today, but Monday's set aside, and if we can get on other days, we will. But we just can't guarantee it because we don't want it to take over our lives.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
You've answered that the way I would say it.
I don't think there's really
Like, if you any drivers are getting on, just put it in the chat that you're getting on. As long you've got the settings, the proper settings there.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's stopping you hosting your own lobby. So people may join, people may not join. It's one of the things.
If there are drivers that can't make the Monday practice and in a day they prefer, just let us know and people can open a lobby on another night.
Yeah.
That'd be a bit more kind of official kind of
Yeah.
thing, as well as Monday, if that's what people prefer.
I mean, it's one of those things as well. Again, when we used to do all the racing leagues, it was a very formal practice on this day, and it can become very monotonous. I don't think that's the right word. That sounds like it becomes very octopus. But it's knowing that Monday night. So, for example, I know like Fluffy. We all know he knows Monday night Bosch practice. He's got his Tuesday.
Thursdays though.
Well, no, that's true. But he knows for himself he can put a couple of hours aside, do a bit of practice on a Monday, but Tuesday, Wednesday he's got other stuff he needs to be doing or wants to be doing, and that's life. That's what we've got to deal with at the end of the day. People have children, got partners, got families, got other games they want to play, and to be fair, yes, people benefit more from practice, but you don't always have to be practicing the same thing all the time. You can drive other cars, other tracks. That all comes down to practice in a way, or adds to it.
I remember while
Yeah.
it's
The
about,
last, sorry.
so we're
Like the last,
You knobheads.
like the last racing league I was part of an admin with, it was so many days that you were online and you kind of like had to be online for it to go. And
Becomes a bit
just-
mundane rather than having it as a entertaining, you know.
Yeah. It was a chore.
yeah, it was a chore. So, because you had practice for certain days and then you had 2 or 3 different racing cups, as you would call them. So,
I mean, looking at the comments, I mean, Dave's saying if you don't practice, you can't expect to do well. I mean, that in a way is a fair comment. I mean, for those people that don't get a chance to practice, it is the chances of then jumping on and winning a race. I mean, Christ, I don't think I'd be able to jump on with no practice and win a race. But I think that's where, again, it comes down to the positivity of the drivers, where if you haven't had a chance to get a lot of practice in, then maybe you just need to be a little bit more aware of what's going on around you, because you might not know what the car's going to do in certain places. But at the end of the day, we're there to enjoy it. So,
yeah, I never done much practice and won a championship.
well, yeah, that's because you just fucking cheated your way through it. I think we could move on to the last one, Rich.
Yep, last one. So this driver was quite happy with the base rules, but what they recommended was perhaps rules with regards to the livery. So having different colours on the roof of their cars. For example, champions will have a gold coloured roof on their car. Race winners, perhaps winners that have come in second, people in the pack, people whose this is their first season, all get a different coloured roof of their car, depending on where they fall in those groupings.
I like that.
That's a different idea. Yeah.
I like
He only likes it because he wants
Oh, he wants his massive star on his roof
He wants
again.
a massive gold roof.
It's more. I remember watching a lot of
Stock.
Stock cars, British stock cars, and so they have the different coloured roofs, the different abilities of drivers, and I think it's a very good idea. Where,
But how would you class a driver at a different skill?
Well, the
And
way,
how and
right, well, the way the
how
comment is on here, right, to answer that is champions are gold tops, race winners. So if you've won a race, you can have a red roof. Nearly winners. So if you've finished in the top 3, if you've had a finish in the top 3, then be yellow roof. For everybody else, it's a white roof. Unless you are new, you're a rookie, you get a green roof because you're a greenhorn.
Dirty champ. Dirty champ
Brown
has a
roof.
brown roof.
Yeah.
yeah, the dirty champ has a brown roof. Good, good idea.
people have got nice liveries, and
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't like to mess that up, to be honest.
You can put the livery on top of the roof. Basically, for instance, your car is a silver livery or a grey livery with a grey roof normally with an orange writing on it. Yeah. So your roof would be a brown roof with orange writing on it, or different colour writing for your roof. So Steve's car would be his livery, but he would put a gold roof on it. But then he could still put his number on top and his sponsorships on top of his gold roof if he wants to. It's just that it's a gold roof. I mean, to be fair, we don't have to do it with roofs. We could do it with rear wings. We could do it with, and race numbers. You could have your number a certain colour.
Well, Rich was looked like he was nodding his head vigorously. Then, anything?
Literally, what I was thinking out loud. You basically said is that I think people, you guys designed a lot of people's liveries. For next season, people will be designing their own liveries and probably taking a little bit of time to create the liveries. The roof's a big part of the car, but I read this and I was thinking about it, and I think something like a rear wing would be a good place to put it. So you read my mind. So
put it on a bumper like they do with
Yeah.
the cross for
Mm.
the drivers.
Yeah.
Could be the back of the car, could be the rear wing. It could be anywhere where it's a slightly smaller area than the roof, for example.
Yeah. Number plate.
But I don't know. It's up to you.
I mean, I think. Yeah, it is. I mean, interestingly, looking at some of the comments, I mean, it's one of those that I think if you know of the concept of the colour in motorsport, you can understand it and agree with it. And it's like, oh yeah, that reminds me of different things. If it's something that you're perhaps not aware of or have never realised that that's what happens in a lot of motorsports, you probably think, well, there's not much. What's the point in that? But yeah, it's one of those which it's an interesting one. That's definitely, I think so. Philosophical. I could barely bloody say that. Right. Was there anything else? Was there any more?
Yeah.
That's your lot.
Okay. Raymond.
Yeah.
While I remember, was there something that you wanted to mention about how you would like drivers to behave and what might happen if they don't adhere to what you say?
To what I say?
Yeah.
Some from the chat.
Oh, fuck. What, on the overtaking and then...
Yeah, so basically,
Can't fuck...
would you like me to tell everybody for you?
Yeah,
You
go on,
cannot
I can't
remember.
He can. He just doesn't know how to say it. Right. Obviously, we were looking at trying to be a bit more positive about educating people and stuff like that. And one of the things that obviously we've talked about is like if people go 3 wide and mistakes happen, people mess up, what should they do, blah blah blah. And Ray came up with a brilliant idea, right, which I'm going to show to everybody on the live stream. And basically, if you don't behave yourselves and do what Ray says, then he's going to send a message to SGP's wife, who will do this. Now, I don't know if that means that Ray will get her to do that to SGP. So if you fuck up, SGP's getting slapped, or whether it's Ray's going to be sending Claire around to your house to slap you. It's all gone quiet here. What's going on?
I'm watching the video.
All right. Oh dear.
You're reliving the experience again.
Yeah.
The first time was the best because we heard the slap.
Oh yeah, the first ever time. Out of the blue, he didn't know it was coming.
I had to turn my chair around, my rig round, so I can face the doorway so I see her coming in. Previously, it used to be the other way around. All of a sudden, I'm driving along and I'll get this across my face, not even see it coming.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I think we're about done. Unless there was anything that any of the viewers want to comment or mention, now's the time to do it, because in a moment we're about to end this stream and we're either going to be going off to go to sleep or go and do some gaming or get some dinner, whatever it is we're going to be going and doing. So if you want to get any comments in at the last moment, now's the time to do it. Anything else that you guys want to mention or say?
Oh, I'm going to add something, and something very quick and basic for the drivers. That is,
Quick from you.
there's a
10
lot of
minutes ago and get my bed set.
there's a lot of drivers doing their own liveries now, and save wasting their own time. If they're not sure on a base colour to go with, because other drivers might be using colours, the best person to talk to is Demon R. The reason why I'm saying this though, Dave, is I mentioned something in the drivers' chat, and then all of a sudden people start putting the liveries in it, saying, "I'm having this colour, I'm having this colour." It's like, whoa.
How do you know
Colour
that somebody
isn't
else is already
confirmed.
using that?
Yeah, your colour's not confirmed, your livery's not confirmed, unless you've used it in a previous season. So, like for instance, Rich's livery is green, black, and yellow, gold, whatever you want to call it.
Well, yeah,
and like Steve's, who uses it all the time. That livery. So if people want to avoid certain colours, so if people want to avoid certain colours, then if they're not sure, Dave might be a good one to talk to, because Dave's the one that sorts the car pictures out for the videos.
Yeah. And gold is only allowed for champions. Is the way I see it. But anyway.
And hey, I'll send you my used phone.
Oh. The thing is, I'm glad that we don't do thong merchandise. But anyway, right. Time to bring this to an end. I want to say thank you very much to Rich for joining us. And
Thanks, Rich.
I've been gathering all of the information and the questions. It's something that it would appear you enjoy doing, and also, I mean, it's something that we all enjoy. But at the same time, we don't have the time or desire to do it. Whereas it appears you like seeing what people have got to say. I bet you enjoy messaging them when they're pissed off after a bad race. All right, mate, how was your race?
Yeah, you got to time it sometimes when you actually send what are your comments kind of thing after you hear some of the commentary that goes on in the race. But it's all right. They're a good group of lads, and I seem to be quite warm to it. So it's all good.
How long did you wait?
He goes back to the replay and sees who's been angry, and then goes, right, what's your comment?
Yeah.
2 minutes afterwards,
Yeah.
Did you message
was
Connor
great racing.
first or last?
Yeah, he's a good egg, Connor is.
Yeah.
Normally have 2 words in a season where I'm like, come on, we'll have a couple of sentences this time, please. But yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. Right, okay, guys, thank you very much for taking the time out of your evenings to join us on this admin's update. I didn't know what else to call it. And for those guys that have been watching, thank you for taking the time to listen in. Hopefully you've had some insight into what goes into the thinking of when setting up the leagues and stuff like that, but also a few teasers for the future.
What are they?
What are they? I'm not
No,
telling
I
you.
said
Alright. Okay, I think we're done. Right, so time to say goodbye. Have a good one, everybody. Goodbye.